Hello and welcome to this very special conversation with Dr. Shamsheel Vayalil on Sports Today. We are all talking about the IPL bio bubble. We are talking about why we weren't able to pull it off. We are talking about what the future holds. How can Indian domestic cricket start again with proper bio bubbles in place? There is a talk about the World Cup moving to the United Arab Emirates again because unfortunately the IPL could not be completed. Now, someone who actually did it. His company did it in collaboration with the BCCI, in partnership with the BCCI in 2020. Joining me, healthcare person, philanthropist, entrepreneur, 125 odd healthcare clinics, but 25 odd hospitals. Seriously, over the last 15 years, he's made tremendous contributions in the sector. Dr. Shamshir, thank you for joining me. First thing is, give me a sense of what you got right in 2020. How did the whole process happen? Give me a sense of that before I ask you the next question.
Thank you. So I think when the whole discussion of IPL in UAE started, we were getting prepared from then because we were doing these sports events, on-site medical management for the last, I would say, 5 to 6 years. We did some mega events, we did Formula Ones, we did Dakar rallies. But the whole concept of event medical management has changed post-COVID. We are all in a very new environment of, and the concept of the biosecure bubble has taken a center stage. So first of all, we wanted to set right. So we had been working out on the SOPs, the complete methodology of how to do this, and alongside the BCCI and alongside the regulators here. As you know, we have a very strict regulatory environment in United Arab Emirates, where the COVID fight has started pretty earlier on, and we had a peak before it peaked in India, and we were ready with that presence of mind to see how we would be making sure that there is no breach, because we knew that the entire onus will be on us. And so in that aspect, we went to the extent of training the staff, because we have a lot of Indians, nurses, we have different nationalities working on this project. We were giving them the complete freedom of doing things. We were training them, we were giving them the moral support, because we know that they would be facing with a lot of the gods of cricket, and we were giving them the confidence that come what may, do your best. Don't even have any, no compromise at any stage or any course of action. So we did a lot of things on the books, off the books. We were on the ground. We set up a command center. We wanted to make sure our responsibility was not just conducting the tournament. Our responsibility was till the players leave and go back to their houses. So we took on the challenge quite differently, and everything worked out the way we wanted. And now we can look back and say that we did right in 2020.
Okay, so give me a sense. What all did you do? Because the question that many people ask, and this is not a show to criticize anyone. I'm making that very, very clear. Okay? I'm not interested in that. Neither are you. This is a show to understand how we can play sport, in a secure environment without any fear, or by eliminating as much fear as possible. So what did you do? How was it done? Was it about, when you say we put in procedures in place, structures in place, what all, give me the SOP, break it down for me. What made the IPL in the UAE a successful implementation of this biosecure bubble? Give me a sense.
So the biggest part of a bubble is trying to maintain the circumference of the bubble, because, fortunately here we had 3 locations and everything was surface transport. We could put a lot of staff into the bubble environment. We had very few in and out of bubble as far as the staff was concerned. Even the drivers, we had a lot of hospital visits, but everything was green channel. We could allocate hospitals. We could allocate scanning machines. We could allocate whatever possible. And the best part is that we were able to keep them secured for the players. We had, a lot of almost 60, 70 hospital visits. So these are all instances where we were extra cautious. We made sure.
Sorry to interfere. Was it because you have your own hospital chain? Did that help?
That could be one part, and I think that is definitely an advantage because we could keep things under our control. Even the staff who were in the hospital were tested before even the players were going, because we knew that if we have only 3 locations, so it was not a big deal for us to keep the staff in that environment, because if you had different locations, different places, then I don't think anyone could take so much of control like we did here, because as you know, it was all road transport, and we had hotels with quarantines alongside, so the mix up of the chances of mix up were very minimal. So that is what I think was the core to it. And then on top of it, we had at least 4 or 5 regulators monitoring us, right from the health authorities to the sports authorities. So we were given a lot of guidance and a lot of restrictions in terms of what we can do, what is the no-go areas. So I think overall, the closeness of the sites, then the regulators, then the BCCI, and even the players, they were all, that was the beginning of, I think, the first of its kind of bio-bubble in cricket. I don't know if they had played anything else before that, but they were all very supportive, even from the biggest player and the most famous ones to the less famous. Everyone was very, very supportive. I never had, initially there were some problems with getting used to this, because doing an RT-PCR is not a very pleasant thing to have. So we had to literally keep the staffs, given more training to them, to talk to the players, how to explain. So even inside the hotel rooms, we were having negative pressure rooms, we were putting the filters. So I think it's a combination of a lot of things. I don't want to make this a technical discussion, but
True.
I think it was all about the support systems in place, the non-compromising SOPs. There was no one who could overwrite a particular procedure and say that I will do like this.
Okay, so 2 parts to the next question. How did you evolve this formula or this SOPs that you just mentioned? Is it a particular model that you've borrowed, you've put it together? What is the scientific basis of putting it together? Explain that a little bit. And number 2, do you think, obviously this is not something that you can tell me authoritatively or anyone, but having spoken to BCCI myself, several people within, it seems to me that air travel or undertaking air travel across 6 cities made it a really challenging dynamic, which resulted in particular COVID cases. Is that what you think is the biggest challenge, or was the biggest challenge?
Yeah, I don't want to specifically point out on what could have gone wrong, because I don't know the details from where the bubble would have broken. There would have been so much of instances. You never know, because when the pandemic is raging, the spread is also very fast. Your positivity rates are also very high. So it won't be good to put the blame on a particular.
I'm not putting the blame on anyone, because anybody can get it. But if I have to do it again, what are my learnings? Is it that it is always, the learning is that if I have to do some sport in the middle of a surge like this, it is better to limit it to surface transport and limit it to a particular city, multiple grounds? Is that my best chance?
You can think of multiple permutation combinations. If you were to forecast and try to do something without an incidence, I think probably you have to go to many extremes. You could think of keeping dedicated hospital facilities, keeping the transport to the minimum, at least on surface. If it goes to the air, then how do you put those staff, the pilots, the crew, all into a kind of bubble? And I think that is where the learning takes us to. It's all about keeping that in and outs intact, because these are all instances where when you make the staff go through the airports or the hospitals or anything for that matter, restaurants, it could be anywhere. The bus, the travel from the bus into the venue. These are things that we can really pinpoint, and if we are able to get the details, probably I would also be very keen to learn from this, because it could happen to anyone, even in the best of the country, the best of bubbles. This is a learning curve for us, and this is all new for us. We have never been in such a. Our thinking has changed. we feel that when two people come close to each other, that's where the fear starts, because we want to keep them traced, tracked, and tested all the time. So we were following the three T's, and now if you take each of them becomes like a separate entity itself, because we can't leave anyone. So the players go through tremendous stress, because the stress levels goes high, because you're trying to keep them into a sort of a bubble where they can't even see their teammates for the first few days. So I think the overall concept, we don't know how long we'll have to live with this, but I think this is going to be with us for a while. So it is better that, as you said, the learning is very important, and sports cannot stop. I think sports is an integral part of life, and especially cricket in India. I don't think we could get out of it as easy as what we can say, but I think it's our responsibility to give what the people want in the way they want. We don't want them to be disappointed, and I think the learning is very important.
So if the BCCI approaches you, this is a hypothetical question, I know, there is a lot of talk that, because of the IPL getting suspended, that the World Cup might move away from India, or even if it is in India, if the BCCI asks for expertise in India or in the United Arab Emirates, will you want to come forward?
Definitely, we are always here to see. It's a larger responsibility also from our side. We are not looking at it as a pure commercial activity, because it's a whole lot of stress for us as well. The amount of people that we have to put in, the amount of consumables that we have to use. So, but it's something beyond all that. It's something that gives us that satisfaction that yes, we were part of a big event. And definitely, we are here anywhere BCCI wants us to be. So we would be very happy to give any sort of assistance. They don't need assistance, but
So the reason I asked you was, obviously after this IPL suspension, the challenge is more, because now we have had one failure.
Yeah.
So obviously the next time, each person associated with the Indian cricketing ecosystem will be like, let's not fail. So the pressure will be more. Are you up for that challenge?
No, we are in healthcare, so we deal with life. So this stress is different, because there's a lot of factors, and the same thing happened here as well. We were under tremendous stress. We had people who did not come out of that environment for until the matches were over. Not just the medical staff, even the logistics staff, and that is where we pulled the trick exactly. We had one number for everyone to contact, because we had so much of franchises. Every franchisee is a doctor. They would want things in their way. But what we were doing is we were collecting everything, getting into a central triaging pool. We were not giving random answers to random calls that came to us. So the communication strategy was very important.
Is that the other one, that the communication, what you just told me, according to me, is very, very critical. Explain a little bit more.
So, we'll always get calls from different managers, different doctors, wanting things off the cuff. And what we were very clear is that we will have a standard set of approaching these problems, because if we start doing exemptions, and I don't mean to say that in any wrong way, and that's their right to ask, but it's our responsibility to give it in a standardized format. So what I want to say is that we were more concerned about the breach. We were always thinking of 1,000 ways where we could have a breach. We were never sitting on a comfort zone. Each day we were telling, I was on with my staff every day, at least 2-3 times, telling them what could go wrong. I was like the devil's advocate. I was trying to be so negative, to say that anything can go wrong, and it kept my staff under pressure. But they started enjoying it, and they said, "You're right. It could happen." And we don't want to know for an answer. We were always trying to keep the players calm, keep the managers happy, the doctors, because we have a responsibility. It's not just something that you swab and go. It's a whole, like I said, communication was one, logistics was another one. The samples has to move, the turnaround times of the reporting. We want the reports as fast as possible, because we also had here positive cases when we started, but we managed it. We quarantined them without any exception. There was no exceptions to the rule, whoever it was. And that was the main message. It's a rule applies to everyone. It's for everyone's safety. And we were able to pull that here because everyone was so cooperative. And it was the first match, as I said. But beyond that, then they started getting news. And this is not a friend. COVID is not anyone's friend. You can't take chances with it. You might get familiar with it, but there's no way that you can take any chances with it.
Dr. Shamsheel, last few minutes on my show, so I'll ask you some pointed ones. Uh, you know, you've just sort of outlined a bit of a protocol. So for my audience, give me a sense. You're under VPS Healthcare. What all was your brief? That from the time the players land to they leave, what all was under you? When I say a biosecure bubble, what all does it entail? Does it entail testing to isolation to trace contact? So give me a what when I say VPS did everything. Explain to me.
We were the medical partners. So there was a technology partner, and our job was the medical side of it. So mainly the three things: testing, tracing, and tracking. So I think we were testing even before they came into the bubble, because we had, the managers who came later. It was not that everyone came in one entourage. So we had to screen, and I think testing was the biggest weapon that we used. We did almost 37 closer RT-PCRs in that duration. So I think the first part was testing, and then even we had some positive cases, as I said, when players came here, and we quarantined them. We got over it in the first few days by itself. So then we were all good to go, and it was a challenge. It came in control, and that is, I should say, only destiny that helped us to get out of that initial phase of that positive cases. But the good thing was that we controlled it then and there. We did not have an incidence beyond that. So probably the important thing was the presence of mind, especially the managers, the people who were in charge of the team. We had multiple teams doing multiple things. So we were doing the logistics on one side, the communications, as I said, then the testing. Testing was very important, because we were doing so many tests at that point of time, and our results turnaround was much quicker. Even we had hospital visits. Green channels were provided, almost 66, 67 hospital visits. And we didn't have any breaks that we got alarmed about. And that was one good thing. We were instructing staff that you cannot talk to the players. You can only, explain what the whole thing without going close. No photos, no selfies, pulling masks. At least for what we know, nothing happened. And thanks God that it went without any incidences.
Okay, the second last one. You've just explained to me how you pulled it off. Now, my question is, obviously, all these are practical learnings. Have you documented it in the form of a book or an SOP? Is there a guidebook now that VPS Healthcare can provide other providers or institutions like the board, or academics and intellectuals like us to understand? Have you done that?
When I knew about this interview, by the time I got the information, you won't believe the amount of information that was pushed to me, because that's what always we have done, because we were doing this for a while. As I told you, events, even the Dakar rally in Saudi, we covered, and we were in this mindset for a while. Everything we survived. We have one division which does only on-site medical management. We manage the petroleum companies here, and these are all very difficult landscapes. We have rigs and all that we supply people with. So it's not the same thinking as a hospital will think, because for a hospital, it's a different thinking. It's not what on-site medical. It's mostly a pre-hospital care mentality, and that is completely documented. And even BCCI has some fantastic procedures, and I think they have done tremendous work in this particular regard. We learned a lot from BCCI, and then we were able to add on to whatever learnings we had practical on the ground. So when they give you a complete book of what has to be done. Then we design the workflows on top of it. It's a broader, guidelines they give you, and it's up to us to develop it the way it should work locally. And we want to develop sports, and that's what me as a person always believe in. We want to associate with sports. We are healthcare. We are not sick care. We want to give that positivity to
That's
people.
A lovely statement.
So we want to, even anyone coming to us wanting to do this, we would be happy to entertain, because we feel that there's enough to be done and there'll be more to be done. So we would be happy.
Okay, so the last one. will you come to India and do it? Because why restrict it to your part of the world at this point? Will you come to India and do it if institutions approach you?
No, we have hospitals in India. We're not. We operate in 5 countries. We have 3 hospitals in the North Delhi. We have a hospital in Kerala. We are ready to take the challenge because we love challenges. We love to apply whatever we learned, and we can't say that we only can survive in one environment. We would do our best, and with the same level of support, I'm sure could be better in the coming times to have.
Okay, I'll end the interview with that note, that what you did to us or for our country and for the institution of the board was quite fantastic. I mean, we enjoyed in the midst of all of the gloom and negativity, we had a fantastic tournament. And all of us keep saying, "Arey, 2020 में अगर कर लिया था तो 2021 में क्यों नहीं हुआ?" We managed it in 20. Why not in 21 with all the learnings? But as I said, everything is a learning curve. So we will take our lessons from this IPL, and hopefully we will get better. We will get better because we've got to live with this COVID thing for another few months, or if not a year, because the world is coming to terms with it with vaccines and everything else. So I wish you all the best. Hopefully, if the World Cup moves to the United Arab Emirates, once again, you will have some sleepless nights to do with your team and staff and work together with us, and then many more interviews to follow. But till then, if I land up in the UAE after the red bubble is over, I'm in your control and your care. So you take care of that, and wish you all the very best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thanks, all. Thanks. Bye.